Let's pretend that this isn't advice. And I'm Erin, and I'm not giving you advice. It's not advice. I can't help myself give advice. I don't mean to. I don't want to. I want you to be able to live your life, but I know how to do it. I'm a huge know-it-all, and this is where I practice not giving advice to people, except I totally give advice to them. I'm a lawyer turned professional certified coach, and I just happen to give the best advice. But this is a podcast, not a coaching session, so I obviously don't do that here, except I do. This is not advice with Erin Conlon, your know-it-all lawyer coach friend. This is not advice. Hi. So on today's episode of This Is Not Advice, I am doing something a little bit different. It's the end of the year, and I brought on another coach to try out a little bit of a different format that I'm calling the ADVICENING.
The ADVICENING.
Basically, we're just giving you a whole bunch of advice. Most of it is unsolicited. Nobody's asked for any of this advice, but we give it to you. I brought on Jess Lilly. Jess is a colleague of mine. She is also a ride or die of mine. I love her. We cover a ton, relationships and well-being and like celebrating wins. If you really want to know where I nerd out, it's probably around minute 55 where I talk about Michigan football and going to the Ohio State game with my dad. So I really love this episode. I just had a lot of fun doing it. And I want to say thank you to everybody who has taken the time to listen to this podcast this year. I'm really proud of the work that I've done. And I'm really proud of all of you for all of the work that you've done. I created this podcast as a love letter to people who do things that are not, I don't know, to people who do things. I don't want to say normal because I think people do stuff all the time. And I just wanted to highlight like how cool it can be to go past the initial roadblock and how many people have those. So thank you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for going. Thanks for your resilience. Thanks for all of your support. And just a reminder, this is like, I probably won't release a couple of podcasts for a few weeks. I am not disappearing. I am just taking a little bit of a holiday break, as should you. That's a foundational thing for well-being, which we also talk about in this podcast. Also, shout out to my producer, Steve, who has been integral to making every single one of these episodes. Steve runs Cedar Cathedral Narrative Studios. I really just am so grateful for him. And shout out to my social media manager, Beth at Lulu and Leo's, who has, one, gotten me some really amazing guests, and two, just been a huge champion for me and my guests and a lot of really cool things that have happened this year. Yeah, I hope you like the ADVICENING.
The ADVICENING.
I think I might do it quarterly. I don't know. If you have any things that you would want more advice on, I would love your feedback. You can send it to me. Email me, Erin@erinconlon.com, and take excellent care of yourselves. Happy holidays. Get some rest. Thank you. Hey, Jess Lilly.
Oh, hey there, Erin.
Jess, so welcome to what I have decided to call the ADVICENING.
The ADVICENING.
Jess, will you introduce yourself to my audience so that they know who you are?
Absolutely. My name is Jess. I am a professional certified coach, like Erin. I am a former public school teacher turned leadership coach, and I work with heart-centered leaders on building effective teams and employing empathy, vulnerability, and trust building in their leadership.
What does that fucking mean, Jess?
I appreciate you asking. What that really means is leaders who have been basically brought up in a hierarchical type of leadership style, telling people what to do and not really getting the relational piece of leadership. I support them in figuring that out, learning how to relate to people as whole people and be compassionate and not just relate to people as doers of tasks.
So basically, you work with human beings who are also leaders to, be leaders, but human.
Yeah, that really is it. When I break it down and like what's actually the point of what I do, I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, what is actually the point of what I do? And the way I've been understanding it for myself, which I should just say it like this because I think it's more relatable, is that it's repairing trust in the workplace. Basically, I spent the first few years of coaching doing career coaching where, every person who was super burnt out, hates their job, doesn't have sufficient support in their job, were coming to me to escape their work environment. And I spoke to enough people about this to be like, oh, well, there's just these huge trust breakdowns and trust issues in workplaces. People do not believe that their workplace. Oh, what's the profanity levels here, Erin?
Pretty much full court profanity.
Okay. People don't think that their workplaces give a shit about them. So why would they sacrifice? Why would they work? Why would they, basically, why would they endure, conditions that that don't work for them? They were all trying to escape these work environments. And basically what I found was really there just needed to be relationship repair. Like I worked with a client who ended up getting, a $10,000 promotion that basically she had been due for years, but she just didn't, they just didn't have that conversation. And of course, that's not all on the, employer. That's on, the individual to advocate, but there's just work to be done. There's work to be done where humans are. So I like to go there where the humans are. And they spend so much of their time at work, the humans.
I mean, I think one of my biggest, that one of the things I actually work on with my clients the most is that second piece is spending so much time at work. Like, why? Why are you spending so much time there?
Yeah.
What's the point? Why?
And do they answer that question when you ask them why? What do they say?
Well, if I ask somebody why anything, they'll give me a very long, detailed explanation that has basically a 5-paragraph essay as to why they would do anything. It's very well defended.
They're also attorneys. They have the defense. They already lined it out.
Yeah. Well, I don't ask my attorney clients a lot of why questions for that particular reason. But the basic background to it is, people, well, with attorneys, why I spend a lot of time at work is that work is often measured by how much time you spend there. The measure of success is how much time you put in, which is crazy because that's not always a great measure of success. Sometimes if you're spending a lot of time doing something, it's because you totally fucked it up and you have to fix it.
Oh, yeah. If we could hop off the time as success, I think that sounds great. How's it going with your clients and reducing the time that they spend just
it's
so they look
great.
like they're successful?
Well, for the most part, it's pretty good. Like the people who choose to hear me and relate to themselves as, whole humans with lives that are more than, the performance that they think that they need to achieve at their jobs, tend to do better at work, are more effective with less time.
Hey,
One of my
now, I think this sounds like the advice ending has begun. What?
the advicening has definitely begun. One of my clients said, so she started taking pole dancing classes this year.
Yes. Oh, yes.
She said that, so she has had a hell of a year, but, and like in a big way. But she said that being able to climb up the pole was her biggest accomplishment.
I absolutely love that. Do you know what that reminds me of?
No, what does it remind?
That reminds me of, I love how I'm about to compare. It's going to be great. That reminds me of when I transitioned from being a public school teacher. I hit a wall, as people do sometimes when they're public school teachers. I said, I can't take it anymore. There's a lot longer of a story to that, but let's just call it, I can't take it anymore. Mm-hmm. And I ended up, kind of being on a bit of a wandering path to try to figure out what who am I and what do I want in life? And I ended up working as a hostess at a restaurant, like a fine dining restaurant. And I remember at the end of one of my nights being a hostess, I was like, I feel more accomplished and satisfied with what I've done today. And I have been appreciated more in this one evening as a hostess than I had been my whole time as a public school teacher. Something is upside down. Something
Mm-hmm.
No,
I totally get that. I remember right before I quit my job as an attorney, I was at the leader retreat, and we had spent the whole weekend, the last one that we had in San Diego, which, for the people listening, the leader retreat is basically a conference of coaches. And I got invited as what was more or less an intern. We'll leave it there. And I spent the whole
we'll leave it there.
I spent the whole time getting coffee. It was very compared to what I did in my day job, being at the leader retreat was, the equivalent of being a hostess or, an intern getting coffee for free. And I had so much more fun doing that than I had in all of the accomplishments that I had as an attorney that year. I was like, yeah, man, I got to be done with this.
Yep. That'll do it.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess. Well, what do you think was the thing that made that more satisfying?
I mean, that's a really good question. I don't know why you love being a coach, Jess. I'm assuming that you do.
I do.
Yeah.
Oh, let's go there. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, I think for me, a lot of what was really great about it was like, you're in a room with, I think there was probably 40 people that gave a shit about growth and possibility and diversity and making sure that humans had access to a better experience of being a human.
Okay, so you kind of saw like a direct line to like your purpose in life and what you value.
Yeah, and I also saw like a community of professionals that aligned with how I wanted to be.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, if that's a whole puzzle of how you want things to be, you're willing to be the coffee person in the puzzle because you're a part of the puzzle.
I mean, for that moment, I was like,
yeah, for a brief period of time, yes, willing to be coffee person.
Would I be that person for forever? No. Let's just own, like, my ambition is too great for that.
Well, that's another, I feel like another great point, that you also had a sense that it was not eternal coffee. Like you were, well, I was there too. So you were deeply appreciated by people. You were contributing to this bigger picture thing, and you weren't going to be the coffee person forever. You were being developed too. Like, you being developed, I guess I should start speaking for myself. I think one of the reasons why I love, that I really appreciated that experience was that I was also being developed, that it doesn't matter if I'm, and some of the businesses that I really love working with are the ones that, whether you're a frontline, like, sandwich maker person, or you're it doesn't, you're a VP or whatever, you're still being developed. Like, it doesn't, it doesn't matter what your job title, or, whether you're bringing the coffee, or I don't know, or looking at spreadsheets, like, you matter and you're being developed.
Yeah, totally.
Sure. So that just made me think of my first piece of advice for the advicening, which is literally all business owners, every single one, should be developing every single human being that works for them. Everyone. It doesn't matter how small, how little contribution, even if they're a contractor, it doesn't matter. Every human who works for you needs to be developed.
Well, it's an interesting idea, right? Like, if you relate to yourself as a business owner, then yeah, okay, you can take that advice and apply it. But if you're just like a middle manager, or you're just, a shift supervisor at a restaurant, you're still a leader. Or if you're just like, I don't know about you, Jess, but I have found myself a de facto leader a lot. Whether I want to be it's so, I've had to like relate to myself in a way that empowers that.
Oh yeah.
But I think that's where, like, people get resentful with me, is that I don't give them that development. I don't give them that information that they're expecting from me.
Ooh.
That I don't think that they're expecting it from me.
Like, what information are they looking for?
Anything. So I don't know. Like, I don't know. I think about it. I think about when I was an attorney, when people would be like, it's almost as though they thought that I knew something, that I had a manual that they didn't have access to.
And these are people working under you?
No, my peers.
Oh, peers.
Or, like, it happened, as a coach too, where people think that I know things that they don't know, or like I have a piece of information that they don't have, and I'm like holding on to it to not share it with them.
Yeah, what do you think? What created that? What's that about?
I mean, I'm a know-it-all.
Is that it? I mean, here we are. Is it because you literally act like you know it all? Is that it?
It might be. It might be a little bit that. I think it's also that, like, I can figure things out, and people trust me to figure things out.
Yeah. I actually just realized that I don't know what the opposite of a know-it-all is. I definitely am capable of being a know-it-all, especially when I think I'm right and everybody else is wrong and blah, 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 when I'm righteous and angry and whatever. But I think that my default is, I don't know. I think that I'm more of a, well, I think I sometimes connect that to the, a Myers-Briggs, like J's versus P's. I'm guessing you're a J.
Yeah. Oh yeah, total J.
That's not such a wild wild guess. But just this idea of, well, I don't know. I think that one of the reasons why I love being a coach is because it allows that curiosity and not knowing to be kind of operationalized. So I actually default to not knowing, rather than being the one who knows that everyone's like, damn it, why doesn't Erin tell me the answer?
Yeah. Well, I think that default is the brain blanking, the going dumb. Um I've worked with some people who have that, and it's just it's an interesting default, right? Because then you don't get blamed for anything.
Oh yeah. There's well, I can't, the thing that I was going to, I don't know, we're twisting and turning, but the place that lands me is like, I actually am curious about this. Do you feel like you have more self-trust as a know-it-all than people who are in the I don't know boat?
That's an interesting question. I think, well, to be fair, I think one thing to remember is that I also have a really lovely case of generalized anxiety disorder. So self-trust and anxiety aren't necessarily like best buds. They don't hang out together in the bathtub. And I think that know-it-allism can often be a coping mechanism for my anxiety. If I just know everything, then I can find the right answer.
Okay. So it's just a different way to deal with uncertainty, not knowing.
Yeah. And I guess if I were to put some advice around this, since this is the advicening.
The advicening.
It's never about like the end result. It's always about the awareness around what you're doing. Because the more aware you are of what you're doing, the more options you have as you are going through.
Yeah. I think that, Erin, I have a advicening question for you.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, this is a good one too.
Okay.
Awareness gives you more options. Fabulous. What have you done with the people around you who are in denial? Talk to me about you and your experience of people being in denial and being really resistant to awareness.
Denial about what?
Denial about their, I don't know. You were kind of like, the advice is to gain awareness so that you can have more choices. How do you break up how do you crack open the journey to awareness for people who are just kind of blindly going along?
Well, I guess that's kind of like the thing, right? You have to be willing. You have to be it's I don't know. So I'm kind of seeing somebody, and he signed me into his HBO Max on my TV. And
huge relationship milestone. Love.
That's what I said. And he was like, "You're using the R word," which I thought was hilarious. But anyway, the Matrix is on HBO Max, and I was like, "Do I need to rewatch this? I think I might need to rewatch this."
Yep.
But I think that's kind of a Matrixy like question, right? Like, are you willing to become aware of what you're not aware of? And until you're willing, anything that anyone says to you is gonna go right by your face.
Yeah. Well, I think that also comes back around to my original advicening about business owners. Everybody develop your people, every single person. Because I have found myself in situations where I am running into a brick wall over and over again when I'm like, hey, I see a lot of potential, or I have a vision of what could be possible, in whether it's people around me. I mean, basically leave people alone if they don't want to be if they don't want to be supported and developed. Also leave them alone. But consider that when you bring people into your world, whether or not they're going to be down to grow, but take the blue or red pill, whichever one is the get out of the matrix one. I don't know.
I don't remember.
Purple. I choose purple.
It's the pill. Take the one.
Take the one. Take the cool one.
Take the one that you're supposed to take, that creates the awareness so that you know that you're a part of the machine, and then like you bend things and you can create whatever.
Yeah, do that one. The magical one. Yes.
It's so, Jess,
yep.
Can we get personal?
Always.
Okay. You started a new relationship this year.
Yeah, I totally did. All right. Oh my God, he just literally called me. That's so funny.
As I asked that?
Yep. He literally just, like, as you said, you started a relationship. His little face, his face is on my phone now. That's so funny.
Do you know what's amazing? I asked that at 22 minutes and 20 seconds.
Oh, I love that.
Isn't that pretty cool?
Love. Yep.
Okay. Outside of the angel numberness of that and the universal synchronicity of that, I have it that's probably a pretty good sign for you to give us relationship advice.
Oh my God. Jessica, this is okay. I'm savoring this. Erin, you asking me to give relationship advice. I did not know that this day would ever come, that someone would look at my face and in all seriousness say, wow, Jess, seems like you might have some advice to give about relationships. So I am super into that. Super duper into it.
Genuinely asking you, like, all right, this guy seems for real for you.
For real. Super for real. Okay, relationship advice. I'm so new to this. Okay, I'm going to share with your listeners why this feels very new. So for my adult life, up until now, actually up until I basically had been repeating the same patterns in romantic relationship for my whole adult life up until like 3-ish years ago. Okay, so 3-ish years ago, I had one more messy, terrible breakup. And I said, oh, I took the pill, the magical one, where I was willing to be aware of my own bullshit. And I was willing to be aware.
Shocking.
I know, truly shocking. It only took me, however many rides around the merry-go-round. And so a few years ago, I did a few things all at once. I stopped drinking, which I'm coming up on 3 years. Yay. Oh my God, look at me go. So yeah, that. And I guess a little bit before that, started coach training. Highly recommend. And I decided to, I basically decided to examine all of the sabotagey beliefs and behavior patterns that I had that kept recreating the same old shit. So I had one of those going after unavailable people, going after emotionally unavailable people, doing the whole codependent thing of I will become whatever they want me to be. And by the way, I'm also going to guess what they want me to be.
Instead of ask them?
Yeah. Don't ask. Just guess. That's what
You might want an M&M. I don't know.
No. So all those old patterns of I need to scan my environment and determine who I need to be at any given moment that would satisfy the people around me. So that was just cranked up to 1,000,000, in romantic relationships, because there was so much it felt very high stakes. So I was doing stuff like that, that doesn't end well. Well, actually, people generally, it didn't end well for me. I'm going to stop, generalizing for the whole world, even though this is the advicening. People do whatever you want. But for me, that didn't work. Yeah. So after, 3-ish years of really working on myself, doing therapy, doing the sober thing, doing, a lot of that stuff, basically I think another thing that I did leading up to this relationship, and as you can tell, I haven't said anything about the relationship itself. So that's the first piece of the advicening, is that most of it has to do with me.
Okay. So first piece of advice is you did a lot of work for you, on you, about you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because some people's bullshit doesn't affect their capacity to be in a healthy romantic relationship. But mine did. Yeah. My bullshit needed to be tackled before I could be in a place to have a healthy romantic relationship, for sure.
That's fair. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I wrote down everything that I wanted and needed in a partner, because I had never done that before. I had never considered, what do I want? I was always in that I'll take what I can get mindset, or I was always in that who do I need to be for them, where I didn't even stop and say, like, how do I want to be treated? What do I, what are important qualities or values, or, all that. I'd never, when my coach asked me that, I was like, what? Yeah. What are your conditions of satisfaction for being in a relationship, a romantic relationship? I was like, I need you to say that different. I don't understand. I don't know what that means. What do you mean? I have I should have preferences and stuff.
It's not just like somebody drops off a person at my house and I go, okay, cool. How do I shapeshift so that this person stays?
Oh my God. How do I make this person stay? Yeah, that was a revolution, total revolution. And actually, another thing that I think made a really big difference for me kicking off being in this, or being ready to be in this relationship, was I actually did a group coaching. I worked with a coach in a group coaching program around rewriting my motherhood story, because for me, really owning the fact that I want to be a mom and my search for a romantic partner were very much interconnected. And for a long time, I didn't believe that I could actually find the right romantic partner. So I started doing that hedging thing around being a mom, where I was like, well, maybe I don't care that much. Maybe I could just be a really cool aunt with funky necklaces and like statement glasses and just rock that and just do that really well. Okay. So I did that. And a few weeks into that group coaching experience, where I was like examining my, like, what do I want out of becoming a mother, or what would I want it to be like? I matched with this amazing human being named David. And he actually is someone that I knew from childhood. And he and I were, we both were campers at the same camp, and then we became counselors at the same camp. And I hadn't spoken to him in 15 years. And he popped up on my Hinge, and I was like, oh shit, he's cute. I was like, wait a minute. He turned out great. Shit.
Wait, was he cute 15 years ago?
Yeah, he was totally cute 15 years ago.
Okay. Would you have made out with him 15 years ago?
Absolutely.
Okay, just checking.
So he, it's interesting because the summer that we spent time together, he had a long distance girlfriend. And I was dating just another guy at camp. And so we were like buddies. And I was like, oh, okay. David, my buddy. So now 15 years later, he's like, I had a big crush on you. I'm like, oh, yeah. I like that. Sounds good to me.
I mean, that's super cute. What makes him the real deal for you?
There are many, many reasons. One is that I can be exactly who I am around him, and he will not tolerate anything else.
How does he know when you're not being you?
Turns out it's actually not that hard to notice. Turns out all those other partners were kind of like not paying any attention to me at all. They just weren't paying attention. They were quite apathetic. So he's very attentive and curious and caring, and he will call me out, and he's very much like my very best friend Laura does this thing. And when he did this thing, I was like, oh, he's right for me. So Laura does this thing where she will like fact check the things that I say about myself. She'll be like, wow, that actually sounds really harsh. Like maybe you were doing the best you can and you're awesome. Like, because I lean toward being hypercritical of myself, or, being overly, I put myself in other people's shoes before I put myself in my shoes. Pretty much in any situation. So he's like he's just like no, I don't tolerate that. Like, how about we team Jessica? Let's do that. He's very loyal and honest and he's brave. I like me fully expressed. Like he doesn't. I've had boyfriends in the past like break up with me because they're like, yeah, you're too much. Like in the past, they've been like, oh yeah, you scare me. I'm like, whoa. So obviously that turned into a thing of me being too much. But he doesn't think I'm too much. He's like the more Jess, the better. And he is passionate and smart. Like there's a bajillion things I love about him, but these are some of the ones that I'm like, oh yeah, this is a very good match for me.
It's interesting. It sounds like he's forcing you to rewrite your relationship story.
Oh, completely. Absolutely. I mean, I told him, I feel like I'm starting over. I feel like I'm 14 and I'm like, okay, how to romantic relationship, and not like I'm starting over, but with all of like the lessons I've learned and the skills I now have, but I am really resetting romantic partnership. And I'm like, we can just go ahead and like, I'm doing something new with you that I haven't done before. Like, this is a new thing. I wish there was another word for it, but.
Yeah. Well, if you were to like talk with somebody who's been in a long-term relationship that feels stagnant and they crave that ability to reset, what would you tell them?
Ooh.
Like they're still committed to their partner. They love their partner. They're not out. They're just like, I want that feeling.
Well, I think that a really important thing is to just be, look at it from like a radical personal responsibility lens, because you're not going to get someone to do anything or be anything different. So if you want things to change in your relationship, likely, like, you're going to have to be the source of it. So people who want more fun, like, I guess that's probably something that people want. Like, you, like,
I don't know. Who wants more fun? Why would anybody want more fun? Fun is, it takes time. It's a little exhausting. Why?
Yeah. Well, I think that likely people stop themselves by saying, oh, I don't know how they're going to respond to that. Or first I need them to do this before I'll do this. Or, there's all these like roadblocks that people put up in their way, rather than just saying, well, who do I need to be to generate this experience in this relationship? And you know what? If it doesn't work the first time, that's okay. Try something else. Try something else. It's just, if you're committed to one, but you're going to have to let go to how things used to be. So there is some fear and scariness, but yeah, letting go of how things were and being the one to generate the new experience.
Yeah. I think that's I think there's that to it. And I think the other part that like we're kind of touching on is the curiosity piece. Like this idea that you already know how it's going to go, that you know how the other person feels, that you know what the other person is. There's two people in a relationship. And not only that, there's like actually 6 people in a relationship. There's the person that you are presenting yourself to be, there's the person that you actually are, and there's the person that you want to be. And your partner has those 3 people too.
Damn. I like that.
So like, who's actually meeting each other today?
Yeah. Well, what are some other things that people say they want in relationship? When they seek a reset, what else are they looking to get?
Intimacy.
Yeah.
Like, let's get deeper. Like strangeness. Like some of that sexuality piece that Esther Perel talks about, how you lose that sexual tension because you think you already know.
Ooh.
So like, why are you not attracted to your partner? It's because you watch them pee. So stop watching them pee.
Stop. That's a good piece of advice for the advicening. Stop watching your partner pee.
Oh my God, I was dating this guy a few years ago and we had not been dating that long and he peed in front of me really fast. I was like, no.
Stop that. We're not doing that.
No.
Nope.
I mean, we clearly are not together, so.
That was the beginning of the end for you with this guy.
Oh, there was many beginnings of the end with that guy. I think there was like 4 ends with that guy too.
Oh boy.
So yeah, that's my relationship pattern, is like 4 breakups per person.
Ooh, it's a lot of breakups.
It's not like, they're not bad breakups. I just like, same people keep circling back.
Yeah. They're not bad breakups, which means, hey, I could do that one again. As opposed to a bad breakup where it's like, never again. I could never do that.
Well, and it's never like, one thing that I have started to realize is that I force breakups to happen, but I make them break up with me.
Damn. Yep.
So I get to like be the victim of them breaking up with me.
Shit.
Or at least that's how it was when I was younger. Now I'm much more responsible for how it goes.
You are highly responsible. I've noticed that about you.
I'm more responsible.
It's a spectrum. Responsibility is a spectrum. Okay, so you said that the people want intimacy and depth, like and sexual strangeness. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, those are just like 3 ideas off the top of my head.
Yeah. Oh no. Again, I think that all that stuff starts with the individuals themselves getting super clear and then being able to own what they want.
I think that's another big thing. Like, how many people refuse to say, like, this is what I want?
Yeah. It's scary.
I wish we didn't live in a society that made like wanting things that were not consumer goods so hard.
Ooh. Yeah, wanting things that are not consumer goods. That's actually a huge, I mean, I think that you just brought another thing to the advicening, which is in order to go after what you really want, you also can't fill up your life with consumer goods all the time. Like, using that as a way to get what you want. Like if you're always, or whatever other ways that people soothe themselves with the temporary fixes of life rather than going after the real thing, which is the intimacy or the depth or the connection, the fun.
Well, yeah. The consumer good gives you the experience that you're actually looking for. So like, let's say you buy a bunch of like fancy chocolate or whatever. You're looking for pleasure. Like, go for the pleasure. That's the experience.
Go for the pleasure.
Mm-hmm. What you want is pleasure. What you buy is chocolate.
I mean, that actually sounds like a pretty good ad campaign for chocolate. What you want is pleasure. What you buy is chocolate. But yes, I understand.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're kind of like getting towards, I don't know, we've talked a lot. Let's switch away from relationships, but not away from relationships because it's all the same thing. Like, what advice do you have for people in taking care of themselves?
Do it. We'll start there. Totally do it. It's worth it. It's amazing. Have you read Existential Kink?
Not yet. No.
Oh, highly recommend. I think that one of the things that I loved about that, and I, in the podcast notes, we'll put the author's name. I don't know it off the top of my head. But
I probably won't put the podcast. Like, I'll just own that I probably won't do that, but Jess I'll tag Jess in the Instagram post and she definitely will tell you who wrote it.
I 100% will do that. Well, one of the messages that she hammers home in that book, Existential Kink, is that, we get off of our bad habits and our self-sabotage patterns. Like if we were able to own what we actually get from them and like just allow ourselves the pleasure of that, then we wouldn't be blindly repeating them. Like we could actually change it. Like for, I don't know, people. And the reason why I connected this to like take care of yourself is this applies to financial, this applies to exercise, it applies to, people, whatever self-destructive habits people have, whether they're addictive things or not. But really facing really facing and understanding, like, what do I get from that? What do I get from not taking care of myself? Because it's not just like, oh no, I'm just lazy, or oh, I'm just an asshole, that's why I don't take care of myself. It's like, no, you're a human being and you are getting payoff from not taking care of yourself in whatever way it is.
Yeah. I have a lot of people who are fine. Like they do just enough where they can say that they're doing what they're supposed to do, but not so much where they like actually are well, or they feel good about themselves, or they relate to themselves or great or whatever. And I like when I talk about well-being, I'm not talking about like the gap between fucking your life up and getting to okay. I'm talking about the gap between like being okay and being great.
Yeah. So what do you see people resist in there, the going from fine to great?
Oh man. Well, I think it's a similar gap, right? It's like, what do you get from just checking the box? You get to say you did it, right? You get to say that you're doing the thing. But like, do you actually have the results that you want to have? Do you actually have the experience of life that you want to have? And the thing, I think that for the advice that I have probably is like, it's okay to fail and not get exactly what you want. And a lot of that, like, oh, I'll just check the box, is probably a fear of failure. Oh, if I work out 4 times a week, that should be enough for me to lose 40 pounds. Well, probably not if you haven't yet. So what's the actual thing you need? Not that you need to lose weight. People out there of the world, that's just a quick off the top example that I struggle personally with.
Well, it's interesting because it ties back to the authentic desires and owning your desires. Perhaps, there's a look for someone who I love. Here, let's see an example from my life rather than talking about you out there. There is a part of me.
Definitely me.
Well, there's a part of me. For a while, I fall down YouTube rabbit holes occasionally, and one of the ones that I was getting really into was watching personal trainers training like Marvel superheroes. Like, I just thought that was so fun to watch.
Like, how did Camille Nanjiani turn into go from like a total nerd to ripped superhero? That kind of thing?
Yeah, that kind of thing. And like I watched, someone working with Scarlett Johansson for Black Widow and whatever. And there is a part of me that's like, damn, that would be fucking cool. That'd be really cool to work out and get to that level of excellence and fitness that, someone does specifically for like to be a warrior. Like what would that look like? But I will never do that. I just don't want it. I really don't want it that enough. Like I actually want my lifestyle where I get to I don't authentically want that to the level of what it would take, because there is a cost. There is, when you look at what you want, you actually need to be looking at, well, where are you wanting that from? Like if I were to go after that, like where would I actually be choosing that from? And I think some people don't examine their goals from a place of like, authentically, what is this for? And is it for me? Is there is this connected? Is this deeply connected to me? Or is this some standard that I feel like I need to achieve to be acceptable or lovable? Because if you could get off the lovability scale and just be like, I am worthy and lovable, period, what would I want from there?
It's interesting, right? Because like inherent in what you just said is, oh, you can't want anything until you're worthy and lovable. Like it's a precondition that.
Well, I think that achieving self-love and self-trust are ongoing. That's like creativity. That's like an ongoing thing forever. But things that you choose from self-hate or a lack of self-trust are going to be an uphill climb. They are going to be, they're going to end a certain way. Like when you choose something, like sometimes we don't use that language of like self-hate, but like what's lacking self-love? That's self-hate, rejection of self. So it's not like you have to be in this perfect state of self-love at all times, But when you choose things from, I will be acceptable after this is the case, there's a pattern to how that will go.
Yeah, well, and like, I guess what I'm sitting here thinking about is, all right, so much of what stops people is thinking that they need to be here first to get there.
Mm-hmm.
I need to, like, oh, before I ask for a raise, I need to have all of these things right. Before I, whatever. And it puts you as, let's just say you and I are talking about ourselves. It puts us on our heels, right? We're always in a reactive state if we are constantly trying to get the thing in order to be worth what we're looking for. And I wonder if you and I are kind of just talking around the same basic thing around well-being, which is like, actually, if well-being is not what are you doing, it's how are you relating to yourself as somebody who can and will be great in the world. And is great already. And what do you need to take care of that and nourish that and grow that?
Yeah. I also think
not label it self-hate. Sorry, go ahead.
And sustain that. Like, I think that, you know, something that we talk a lot about in the coach training world is expanding what you can be with, and expanding your leadership, and expanding the projects that you're a part of, and growing in that way. And what level of well-being do you need to sustain in order for that life to work? And I think that what you said about fearing failure, there's another aspect to that of like, well, what if everything falls apart? Like, what if I build and build and build and I create this well-being that can sustain all of that? And then, you know, like relating to it as being fragile or something that can like fall apart at any moment.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing. If you're relating to the things that you create as could fall apart at any moment, then you're partially relating to yourself as fragile and can fall apart at any moment. How many China dolls do we have listening to this podcast? You're not fragile. Like, pretty sure most of you all are middle-aged or on your way to middle age. Congratulations, you've lived at least 28 years.
Nailed it. So advicening on well-being is do it and look at how you're relating to yourself while you do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, like, don't relate to it as a checkbox. It's going to change. And you might need to come back to the same things. Like, your well-being will require sleep. Your well-being will require sleep. It will require food.
Oh my God. Revolutionary.
Those are two things that will be required in order for you to continue to function as a human being.
Do you know what also came to mind here? Is also that there's, you know, seasons to it and cycles to it. I think that that's another thing that I trip up with when it comes to well-being, is relating to myself as a robot or a machine, or like, well, once I do this, I should be able to be continuous in this exact same way always, rather than knowing already there's going to be flows and different, like it's going to look different at different times, and not being that's tripped me up before, being like, oh no, why do I need more rest right now? Yeah. It's like, because you do, and do it. Like, it's okay.
Yeah. Oh man. But here's the thing. We're talking about relationships, we're talking about career, we're talking about well-being. I have these buckets. I talk about this on my Instagram. I talk about this with my clients. I use all of these because they feed each other. When you pay attention to these areas, they feed each other. So like well-being feeds your relationships, feeds your career, feeds your leadership, feeds your creativity.
Yes.
And if you can't get a win in one area, you might be able to get a win in another area. So let's just do some general advice. Like, all right, what do you want to tell your clients that you haven't been able to say to them?
Ooh. General advice. Don't be a dick. Don't be a dick to yourself. Don't.
Yeah, don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick, man. It's
don't
not that hard.
Don't be a dick.
Stop being a dick.
Stop being a dick. Particularly to yourself. Stop being a dick. Stop.
God. Quit with the all or nothing. You are not a complete success and you're not a complete failure.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Oh, this is like, things take time. Let them take time.
Yeah. Also, be ready to win.
Be ready to win.
Dude, it's a kind of a thing. You got to be ready to win. Like, if you are the kind of person who is so used to relating to yourself as not a winner, when things start going your way, you will fuck it up.
Yeah. Ooh. I think another advicening thing, general advicening, is kind of, how do I say this in a way that's embrace change might be the inspirational poster way to say that. But
yeah,
like get with change, like whatever you need. I don't know. I think that this like, but I want the old things and the new things. No, you might have to let go of some of the old things for the new thing. It's okay to like let go. Like it's okay for change to happen. You are going to have to let go of something. It's okay.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like, it's less the embracing of it and it's more like allowing life to unfold, and some things will stay and some things won't. And sometimes you'll have a say and sometimes you won't.
On that note, you are not in control of everything, and nor can you be, nor would you want to be.
Yes, and you also have to be responsible for your experience.
A good old both and.
I mean, it's kind of a mind fuck though, right? Like you're not in control of everything, but you have to be responsible for what you can be responsible for.
Yeah, that's a tricky one for me.
Is it?
I like being completely hyper responsible for everything and everyone and all of time and space, or completely non-responsible at all.
Or a total victim to circumstances.
A total victim to circumstances and fate. That's it. One or the other. Yeah. I am learning to be more flexible in my mentality around that. Like of, okay, I did contribute to this in some ways. And also some of this was outside of my control. And how would I do that next time? Or how will I do that next time? But without going full self beat up mode.
I'm trying to like be in this. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I've had a lot of expansion this past year. And And I think I have to relate to myself as bigger than I used to.
Mm-hmm.
So that advice about being willing to win, that
Yeah.
was for me.
That
It
was
was totally for
directly to
me.
your ears. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, what are you going to have to let go of to be willing to win?
Who says I have to let go of anything?
I don't know. Is there something that is there a story that you had to let go of, or?
No, I think I just have to be willing to win.
Okay. Today's the day.
Mm-hmm.
From this day
I mean,
forth, Erin, willing to win.
So I don't know if you know this, but I am a huge Michigan football fan. And I have been, well, I went to Michigan for undergrad. I went to Michigan for law school. I grew up right down the street from Michigan football, University of Michigan. And I've been going to their games since I was a child. And Michigan beat Ohio State for the first time in 10 years. And I was at the game. And I have been going and I have been waiting for them to win. And I've known that they could win. And like we've had a couple of heartbreaking losses in the past 10 years. And I was sitting there with my dad and I was like, I think we're going to win. I think we're going to win. And I was like willing for it to happen. And the night before, I was like looking on Twitter for a writer who said that Michigan football could win. No one was willing to say it. And it was like, I was getting a little sad about that. And I texted my friend and I was like, nobody will say that they're willing, like nobody will say that Michigan football wins. She's like, you're trying to lawyer your feelings, Erin.
You're trying to lawyer your feelings.
And I was like, I am.
Yes, you are correct. And I'm not going to stop anytime soon. No.
But I think that mindset shift what I'm trying to say is like, I've started to embrace that. I think I started to embrace it a while ago. And it's way more fun. And it's hard to embrace it.
Mm-hmm. Funny enough, I watched that game because David is a Michigan football person.
You did?
I did. And it was really fun to watch. There was one guy who jumped over another guy. The whole thing was great. That was my favorite part. But I also saw
there was a guy that jumped over another guy?
Yes.
Like on TV?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. He jumped over the guy at the end. Yeah.
That was really fun for me.
Haskins.
And I saw your Instagram post about it. And I was very inspired by how that game was. I'm not a football fan. I'm not a sports fan, but I was very inspired by what it meant to everybody.
I cried.
I believe this.
I totally cried. My dad was like not at all able to like, he couldn't believe it until the score was over.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God. And we sat there and we watched people rush the field. And it was one of the most euphoric moments of my life. And it was a collective euphoria.
Wow.
And I wish everyone could experience that. Like the collective euphoria of something like that. And the coolest thing about all of this is that it was a real breakdown to breakthrough collective experience. Michigan football had been 2-6 or 2-4 the year before. Jim Harbaugh cut his pay in half, like took a huge pay cut, totally retooled his whole coaching staff, did everything that, like you and I talk about breakdowns all of the time with our clients and what you have to be willing to accept in order to make those changes.
Wow.
And he did it.
Wow.
And not only did he do it, he did it in such a manner that like everyone got on board and was like, all right, we're here.
Wow. Well, your story just gave me 2 advicenings.
Okay.
One is something so inspiring about that was like believe in something greater than yourself. Like be a part of something. Be a part of something. And that's actually believing in things and being connected to something greater is not actually something that people, I don't know. I feel like that's a gap for a lot of people. Not really feeling like a part of something.
Oh my God. So true. I think I forget that. Like you and I are part of a lot of community with the coaching that we do and with just, I think it's a natural thing that we do.
Yeah. We just do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Okay. What was the second thing?
Well, and the second thing was feel your feelings. Feel your feelings and address whatever gets in the way of feeling your feelings, because you have them even if you don't want to admit it.
Well, I don't think that joy would have been so great if I hadn't been willing to suffer through the suffering of the years before.
Ooh.
Like my loyalty to Michigan is very deep. It's stupid. It's stupid. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. And like the advice piece that I have around this is expect and welcome the breakdown. Allow the thing to fall apart because you don't know what's on the other side. And if you're trying to piece and hold together something that isn't working because it's working okay, but it's not working to get you where you want to be, the national championship game or, the whatever, then it's not working.
Wow. God. And that goes again to the denial. Will you take the pill? Will you admit that there is a breakdown? Will you own it? Will you, embrace what is happening and actually, let go of what's not working and create something new?
Yeah. I know you have a client after this. How much time do you have?
This client was willing to move our call a little bit.
Oh, yes. Cool. What is like a pivotal moment for you this year? Similar to my Michigan football story, since I just rambled on about something that might alienate, I don't know, 20 people.
You took a big risk, Erin. Talking about football allegiances. A big deal thing. Wow. There's a lot that happened this year. And okay. Well, which area of life? Does it matter?
It doesn't matter. I think I'm looking for like the equivalent of nerding out the way I just nerded out for 10 minutes about Michigan football.
Okay. I'll give you some nerd. It's coaching nerdiness. Coaching nerdiness. Okay. So I think that this year, and there wasn't one moment in particular that defined all of it, but this year was the year that I really understood that the qualities that I have in my leadership, like my brand, for lack of a better word, like my style of authentic leadership, where it is empathy and silliness and down to earth and willing to have like the fierce conversation. I'm reading Fierce Conversations, another great book. That my leadership is really valuable and needed. And I went from being a person who wished the world was some kind of way, and why can't I help like it become that thing? Like, when is it going to happen outside of me? Like, I think even up until this year, I had been like, yeah, I think my leadership matters. I want to join, the right team that's already moving this thing forward. And I really started to embrace that, what I'm calling heart-centered leadership, like relating to people as whole human beings, coming from my whole humanity, Like, that's a really important contribution, and I'm going to be the source of that. I'm going to piss people off. Some people are going to roll their eyes at what I'm talking about. Some people are going to be like, no, the old way is when we pretended people weren't people. That was way better. Like,
yeah,
I started to really embrace what I see and what I contribute. And one of the reasons why, I started to really get that internally, but it came from a number of things externally kind of lining up. Like, for example, I had been in a mentor relationship with a business owner who I admired and kind of put on a pedestal forever. And he actually reached out and hired me and was like, you're actually the perfect coach for one of my people. And
yay.
It was huge because he was someone who I saw as like all the way so separate from me, so much higher than me, so much more successful. And he knows that stuff about life. He has the manual, Erin. I was like,
oh, man, that manual, like, I got to tell you,
Yeah.
somebody's got to send it around.
I know. Well, when he hired me, like, we were just on another phone call. That was just another catch up. What I related to is almost like mentoring. And when he was like, oh, you know what? You actually would be the perfect one for this person for all these reasons. And I was like, oh my God. And you're right. I actually am perfect for that person for all the reasons that you just said. Oh my God.
Oh.
And so when I talk about that relationship, I sometimes refer to it as when heroes become friends. I'm like, chapter 3 in Heroes Becoming Colleagues edition. Like, I think that was a stepping into my greatness. Like, you were talking about being willing to win. I think that my resistance to winning has definitely been around being visible and responsible and alienating people and like all of my perceived negative consequences of owning my greatness. And now I'm like, oh no, it's like way too cool to be small and hidden. No, I can't do that anymore. That's sorry.
Yeah. It's such a good win. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations to have people shift their relationship with you. Like, to show up with yourself so authentically that people see you differently. That's super cool. Secondly, like, congratulations on the business win. I think, one thing you and I are dancing around is that we're both solo entrepreneurs. It can be a lonely, rough ride at times.
Yes.
And, this is good advice for everyone. Celebrate these things. Celebrate your wins, man.
Yep.
Rush the field.
Rush the field. Oh my God, I'm going to make a poster. Rush the field. Make posters. That's another piece of advice. Make posters.
Holy crap. I got called out for not being a celebrator the other day. And I'm like, I really do suck at celebrating. I was thinking about it. I was like, oh, if I ever got married, I totally would just like courthouse wedding it and be like, oh, I don't maybe people would know I got married.
Oh my God, so funny. This is something that David has been like, we're going to do whatever you want to do. And I'm like, I don't have any preferences. Oh shit. I need to actually look for myself because I just never sat down and thought what I would want in a wedding.
Really?
Oh, never. This is a part of the old stuff of like preferences. I should want something. That's interesting. Like, I have no clue. So that's a project for me to think about.
I mean, you sound like you have Project Wanting in 2022.
Oh my God. I am writing it down.
Or Project Desire or something.
Project Desire. Yeah. Yup. Love that. Celebrate wins. For sure.
Rush the field, baby.
Rush the field. Rush the field.
I love that you were watching that game.
I know. I really loved it. I really, really loved watching it.
Do you know that's the most watched football game of the year?
I believe that. I really do. Well, the other thing that came up with Rush the Field, God, what was the other piece of advicening that just...
Don't do it alone.
Oh, don't do it alone. Oh, yeah. And I loved what you said about own and experience the suffering so you could actually have access to the full joy. That really made a really big impact on me when you were like, oh, actually, I think the joy and the elation that came from that win came from me having been along for the whole ride. And that's another thing about being a solo entrepreneur is that we own all of it. There's nothing to hide from. There's nothing to hide in. We can't be like, oh, well, this other thing someone else did was shitty and that's why stuff didn't work out. It was like, no, I didn't do the scary action I needed. I didn't get hired by these people because I didn't do X, Y, and Z, and really taking ownership of all of it.
Well, and sometimes you don't get hired by the people. And like maybe you need to be talking to 5 people because you didn't get hired by the one person.
Yeah.
And so like the big scary action is actually 15 scary actions, not just one.
Yeah.
And I like to that it's, how much is the bare minimum and how much is like the actual minimum?
The actual minimum. Yeah, that relates back to that well-being conversation too. What's the actual minimum?
Yeah, like what do you actually need in order to have what you actually want? Not like, I think people think of things as a one-to-one relationship. If I do X, then this one thing will happen. I don't even know how many people I've talked to about hiring me at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people I've talked to about doing workshops. I don't know. You are my 30th podcast. So I do know how many podcasts I've done. Thank you. But that is a lot of action sufficient to some results. And it's not one-to-one.
And it's not one-to-one. And it's not like a trickle. It's not like a turn the faucet on and you have a flow, a consistent, predictable flow either.
Right. Yeah. And the other part too is like how I think this is advice that, maybe we forget. Sometimes we don't like what we're up to and we get unenrolled in what we're doing or unenrolled in ourselves. And you have to come back to why you said you wanted to do this in the first place. And if your reason why isn't there, all right, man, get a new reason, get repurposed, get re-excited about what you're doing.
Get a new reason. Another thing that connected back to the celebrating wins, and this is something that it's probably related to Project Desire. I am not great at tracking stuff, like tracking my progress. And that actually robs me of a lot of celebrating.
Okay.
So,
that might be a not do it alone thing. You might need like a tracking buddy or something.
Yeah. It's a good piece of advice.
I mean, most of the advice in the advicening has happened in the last 35 minutes of this podcast.
That is true. Yes. We had to get warmed up.
Well, and, I don't know where we were going to go. And there was definitely not a super clear agenda. And you and I usually get warm after 25 minutes anyway. So
yeah, here we are.
Maybe I should just tell Steve to cut the first 20 minutes. Or, I don't know. We'll see. Did people listen all the way through? We'll find out.
Well, we certainly will. Yeah. What have you, I actually am curious about, can I ask you about your podcast?
Yeah.
Since here we are on it.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I am so excited to be on your podcast.
Oh,
I have
thanks.
not expressed that. It is awesome. I think it's a huge deal that you're on episode 30. And I think it's a wonderful contribution. I love your voice. I was listening to the intro, the interview with you.
Uh-huh.
I just love your voice and your being and your snarkiness. Like, you have the perfect blend of like snarky, witty, down to earth, and super optimistic connection to possibility. You're just like the, the soft serve swirl of those things. And it just makes both of them tastier. Like, if you were all one or the other, it would be like, no, too much. But you are the soft serve swirl with the sprinkles.
Thank you.
Yes. But I want to know what have you learned so far about life and yourself and your business from doing this podcast?
I mean, I've learned a lot. Like, consistency matters. I think that's a big thing for me. I also think that, what's the other piece? So many people are doing super cool things and they are not celebrated or acknowledged or seen for it. And I am so proud of what I have done in being able to shine a light on those people.
So cool.
And I want to do more of that.
Wow.
I'm really proud of that. And I think the final piece, which I kind of already knew, which is like, what stops one person probably stops a lot of people. And so our struggles are not unique, but they are unique. And so there's always an opportunity to learn from somebody else, and there's always an opportunity to see ourselves in somebody else.
Yeah. Gosh, I love the way that you are using your podcast to acknowledge and see people because I think that's one of the things that people get so much out of being coached, is that people get to be seen and heard and held in a particular way in coaching. But this is just another avenue to do it, and to do it publicly, and to celebrate people. That's huge.
Yeah. It's kind of, I don't know. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of the work that I've done in it.
As you should be. Huzzah to you.
Thank you. Huzzah.
Huzzah. Huzzah. Yes.
Jess, Lilly, thank you so, so much for being the first guest of the ADVICENING.
Yes. The ADVICENING.
The ADVICENING.
The ADVICENING.
Any last words for this podcast in this moment, not for the rest of your life?
Yes. Final words. You are such a fun person to be on this ride with. Holy shit.
Oh, thanks.
Like, you're just, I mean, my last words on this podcast are just, you are an amazing coach and a wonderful friend and human, and you are going to be my friend forever. And that is something that I will be sure to, like, you just won't shake me. So here we are.
Cool. Yeah, you've got me too.
Yeah.
I mean,
love it.
Yeah. I love you, Jess, Lilly.
Love
Thank
you
you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
This Is Not Advice is brought to you by me, Erin Conlon. If you are interested in learning more about my coaching practice or how we might be able to work together, please visit erinconlon.com. This podcast would not have happened without production support from Cedar Cathedral Narrative Studio.